2.
Welcome back to Who Are We? Our look at the legacy of Doctor Who. If you missed part 1, then you've avoided perhaps the most tense cliffhanger in TV history. 7th Doctor Sylvester McCoy.
Every great decision creates ripples, like a huge boulder dropped in a lake. The ripples merge, rebound off the banks in unforeseeable ways.
I got a phone call from John Nathan Turner saying, "Look, I'm just phoning up to tell you I've sent you a letter." Well, I may as well tell you what's in it. And he said, "It's going into hiatus." Then they forgot to bring it back.
Yes, to the horror of Whovians across the globe, the show was put into cold storage from 1989, with fans relentlessly checking for any signs of life. Yet as time marched on, nothing materialised. Well, not nothing. The Doctor Who fandom never stopped, and on the 30th of November 1990, they arranged a day of action with around 1,000 fans blocking the BBC switchboards with questions about the Time Lord's return.
Don't you think haranguing the BBC might alienate them further from Doctor Who fans?
Well, there's a possibility of this, but the people that don't like Doctor Who in the upper echelons don't like it, full stop, and the people that do like it love it, but are not in a position to do anything about it.
But still, there was no news, so VHS releases, magazines, computer games, and what we'd now call fan fiction became the lifeblood of the show's devotees. With no Doctor Who on TV, creative fans were filling the gaps, as fan and current voice of the Daleks Nick Briggs remembers.
We were making Doctor Who, and I was playing the Doctor and the Daleks. You know, we took it really seriously, too seriously. It absorbed our entire lives.
As soon as it stopped, fans phoned us up and said, "Look, we want to make a radio version of it, come and make one." And so we did, and then we made kind of pirated versions of it, calling it something like the Professor.
Up sprang audio dramas, spin-off movies, Target novels, and even unlicensed Dalek erotica. Although the less said about that, the better. Among the people involved in writing new Who novels at that time were Russell T Davies, Gareth Roberts, and Mark Gatiss. Whatever happened to them?
Just thought of a joke, actually. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who.
For Doctor Who fans, life took on a repetitive pattern. Every few months, a newspaper would contain rumours about a possible new Doctor, with everyone from Denzel Washington through to Shane Ritchie linked with the TARDIS. Occasionally, it would seem like real progress was being made, but ultimately all that came was disappointment. But in America, plans were afoot. Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment attempted to stage a reboot, but it got trapped in development and was then the victim of corporate restructure that led to the birth of DreamWorks. As a result, the plans were shelved. And then a lifeline. In 1993, to mark the show's 30th anniversary, a one-off special was announced.
Starting with Children in Need, a new dimension in television is coming at you on BBC One. A third dimension that will bring you-know-who right into your home for a special two-part adventure.
Dimensions in Time, a crossover with EastEnders, saw the Rani descend on Albert Square. And if that wasn't enough of a gimmick, it was all shot in stomach-churning 3D.
In the next half an hour, we'll be joining Noel Edmonds live from Crinkly Bottom. And at 8 o'clock, we'll be premiering 3D TV with a special adventure of Doctor Who, in which 5 famous doctors land in Albert Square. So make sure you've got your glasses ready.
I've got mine ready. It's going to be really spectacular, in fact.
Former companion Louise Jameson.
It was a very, very odd day's filming that. As Sylvester McCoy arrived, a couple of the other doctors had a lot of what we call techno speak, and they thought, I can't learn this, Sylv will do it. And they literally passed over their dialogue to Sylvester McCoy to do. I did read the whole script, but I didn't really understand it all. I understand I'm not alone in that. But you know, anything for children in need.
Even the sight of Pat Butcher on the same screen as a Cyberman couldn't save the show.
I was ashamed then, and I'm ashamed now.
You are outside your function.
For 3 long years, nothing happened. And then, in 1996, came the news that every Whovian was hoping for. Doctor Who was coming back. The producer who had been working on the shelved TV reboot had moved on to Fox, where a budget of $5 million was set aside for a TV movie. Into the role came Paul McGann, who is either the shortest serving or the longest serving Doctor in the role, depending how you measure it.
You have a little under 4 minutes.
4 minutes? That's ages. What if I get bored? I need a television, couple of books, anyone but chess. Bring me knitting.
You have so little breath left. Spend it wisely.
The TV movie was intended as a backdoor pilot for a new American-produced Doctor Who TV series. It saw Sylvester McCoy return in the titular role, well, for 20 minutes. Unfortunately, he materialises in the midst of a gang fight, which sees him getting shot. He's taken to hospital, but is operated on by someone who is unaware of the fact he has two hearts. Nightmare. And worse was to come. Despite clocking up over 9 million viewers in the UK, when the movie was shown in America, it clashed with one of the biggest broadcasts of the era, as over 21 million viewers tuned into Roseanne to find out whether John Goodman's character Dan had survived his on-screen heart attack. In contrast, the Doctor Who movie clocked up just 5.6 million viewers. The backdoor pilot had failed. It looked like the Doctor had used his final regeneration. But there was no end in sight for audio dramas, novels or fan conventions.
One of the great things about conventions, especially in those days, before the internet, was that there tended to be people who were into Doctor Who, especially in America, because it wasn't shown nationwide. It was on PBS stations, which are little stations dotted across little secret places of civilization. And they were the only Doctor Who fan in town. And so when they went to a convention, they met other people who spoke the same language. And it's a joy, even now, to see these young teenagers sitting dressed up in their costumes in a circle, animated. And I love them.
And as the years passed by, children who had grown up loving the show started to get their moments on screen and behind the cameras. The TARDIS showed up in the background of Red Dwarf, in an episode of The Simpsons. And when Russell T Davies made Queer as Folk for Channel 4, he snuck in his own tributes to his childhood obsession.
Yes, one of the lead characters, Vince, played by Craig Kelly, was a huge Doctor Who fan. That is when it wasn't cool to be a Doctor Who fan, and actually I wanted to make it cool because Vince was lovely and sexy and funny and a loud Channel 4 sexy show. And so to put Doctor Who in that was a bit mad. And Doctor Who was so unpopular at the time. The BBC were delighted. We thought we'd have to pay a lot of fortune for the rights to go. No, have it. Play these clips. And then we had K9 came into an episode, and weirdly, that actually set up the return of the show because it connected my name with Doctor Who. So at that kind of drama level, everybody watched Queer as Folk, so my name was linked.
And then something magic happened. Do you remember the Lisa Tarbuck sitcom Linda Green? No? Just me? Well, it may seem unlikely, but Linda Green is perhaps responsible for one of the most important moments in British TV history. Russell T Davies.
Jane Tranter, who's now, bizarrely, the head of Bad Wolf and the executive producer of Doctor Who. Then she was controller of fiction at the BBC. She had worked on Doctor Who in the old days. She'd marked up the rehearsal rooms as an AFM, and she loved it. She loves fantasy, Jake, so she wanted to bring it back. So it was a BBC launch party. They're launching a Lisa Tarbuck sitcom called Linda Green, where we ended up in the same room. She was there, I was there. My lovely producer, Nicola Schindler, said to her, really, you should talk to Russell about Doctor Who. He really means it. And all came out of a party. It all came out of networking. You think networking doesn't work, but there we were at a party, and it happened.
And it turns out Russell was pretty much born for the role of Doctor Who showrunner.
My mum was very good. She loved science fiction. She always sat me down to watch it, and I suppose I associated with her in all sorts of ways. When I was born, she had an extraordinary overdose. They gave her too much morphine, and she floated off into space, and there were great big floating heads who sent her back to a parallel universe, and then she attacked a nurse. And so I think I was, how much of that chemicals were going on in my system? So I think I was kind of born in a science fiction miasma. She was literally floating in space. That's where she believed she was. So I think from day one I was kind of floating in the ether slightly. And my first memory is genuinely William Hartnell regenerating into Patrick Troughton. That's a true fact. People don't believe me, but it was absolutely terrifying. I was 3. And this is missing from the archives now. It's a missing, long lost missing episode. It's in my head. If you could change my head into picture signals, you'd recreate that episode.
On the 26th of September 2003, almost 40 years after the Doctor had first opened the doors to his TARDIS, an announcement was made.
Great news for anyone worried about the future of the planet. After a period of invisibility, Doctor Who is back, or will be at Easter. The present chairman of the BBC, foolish man, thought he'd killed him off. But as the Daleks lived on disguised as John Burt, The Doctor survived in the hearts of a legion of fans and among the empty pot noodle containers in squalid student flats across the nation.
Speculation over who would inherit the keys to the TARDIS hit fever pitch.
I remember when it was announced we were bringing Doctor Who back, the newspaper said, Paul Daniels as Doctor Who. And the fact that the newspapers were naming people who weren't even actors was alarming. That genuinely made you sit there and think, God, the reputation and the memory of this programme is in hell of a state. So we knew we had a lot of work to do. So we instantly knew we'd have to go for a big name, never guessing you'd get someone as serious and profound and truly brilliant as Chris Eccleston. I mean, that was the greatest miracle. And I remember that being announced, and that overnight overturned everyone's impression of what Doctor Who was going to be. Within the industry, suddenly with Chris behind us, you could phone up agents, you could phone writers' agents, and suddenly the whole thing had gone up a few gears. Suddenly people were more interested in it. If you're trying to book Penelope Wilton, for example, to come into the first series, it's like they knew this was a Chris Eccleston show, and that improves everyone's standards, and trying to meet his standard was phenomenal. So that was a great moment, yeah. Good Lord, the moment he said he was interested, that was it.
Ahead of the show's launch, Chris joined me for one of his first interviews as the Doctor.
Oh, you've entered a very mad world now, surely.
Yeah, it's just starting to dawn on me, all that.
Has it really? Were you getting sort of shouts out in the street and all that?
Where's the TARDIS, mate? What's Billie Piper like? Yeah, Doctor. All that, plenty of that.
Yeah, all over the place.
It's good nature. There's a lot of goodwill towards the show for some reason, because it's tied up with people's childhood.
But then a lot of people are going to be encountering Doctor Who will have no idea. I mean, a girl that I had on the quiz a little while ago had no idea what Doctor Who's all about. Can you explain some kind of reason why there's fascination for it, or what the Doctor's all about?
Well, he's a 900-year-old alien with two hearts who used to look like Sylvester McCoy, among others. That's the fascination, I think. I think it's a classic idea, really, the idea of an alien who can go forwards and backwards in time. It kind of gives you an opportunity to do a lot of different genres. Within the series, within the 13 episodes, there's changes in tone, really, and it gives you that. For instance, in episode 8, Rose, played by Billie Piper, goes back and meets the father that she never met. It's my favourite episode.
Oh.
Very, very moving, as well as frightening. So this is a boyhood dream for Russell. He wandered around Swansea wishing the TARDIS had arrived and he could go with the Doctor and be his assistant. It really is a boyhood dream, and you feel that in the writing. There's great emotion. He's living his dream, is Russell.
God, if you could have gone back and said, look, when I was 11, I think at 11 was like a pivotal age. That was 1981, so I was going into comprehensive school, and that's when John Pertwee became Tom Baker. And that's kind of, I think at 11 I become a fan. That's when you stop just watching it and you decide to watch it. And if I could go back and say to that 11-year-old, you'd be running that show one day. You'd be writing those monsters and inventing them. Impossible. And that's also the age when you're 12, 13, other people are running off to play football. I'm kind of slightly realising I'm gay without even using those words. So you're kind of going off into a world of your own. I think you're slightly separating yourself from the world. And that's actually, I think, when television became more important to me. It was just that window into something else. Not that you have to be gay to go through that experience, but, you know, I do think that's part of it. And so...
feeling apart from other people?
Feeling apart, feeling different, feeling nothing to connect with in Star Trek, because Captain Kirk was snogging women. So genuinely, that made me step back from that. And also, in many ways, it is to do with who you are. That's the Navy, Star Trek. I was never going to join the Navy, and I wasn't even that sort of person. So you're watching a world that I was never going to be part of. You watch Doctor Who, Britain, street corners, everyday life. There's the TARDIS. So I very much felt part of that.
And on Saturday, the 26th of March 2005, the Doctor's TARDIS materialised on one of those street corners. It was the moment every Who fan had been waiting for.
I'm the Doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
Christopher Eccleston came to the role with his own blueprints for how the Doctor should be played.
Because he brought with that determination to be a working class Doctor. We shook off all that lordly side of things. He wore a leather jacket. He didn't say my dear, my lord, and things like that. So he's very keen to have a hero for your working class kid and for your working class family. So his ambition to do something like that was in place before Doctor Who, and then he knew I was doing it. We worked together before, so it all came, again, just luck. I think sometimes things just come together.
If you are an alien, how come you sound like you're from the north?
Lots of planets have a north.
What's a police public call box?
It's a telephone box from the 1950s. It's a disguise.
The show was a resounding success.
All the research said that children won't watch something that their parents used to watch, because that's not cool. And That just goes to show sometimes research is profoundly wrong, because the opposite happened. Mums and dads said, oh, come and watch this, and kids did, and they loved it. And their love for the show was born on that night in 2005.
And it wasn't only Russell T Davies' childhood dreams that were coming true. In fact, the first modern Dalek story was adapted from an audio drama made in the wilderness years, and the Daleks were voiced by one of the people who had started out writing Doctor Who scripts in their student bedrooms, Nick Briggs.
I mean, I never believed the TV show was coming back, so it was a big shock and a delight to me. And then, you know, Russell T Davies, of course, who listened to our CDs back in those days, saying, we're bringing the Daleks back, we'll get that guy, because I know he can do it well, and I know he's got the gizmo and the tech to do it, and that solves so many problems. Can you imagine my joy when I was actually invited to be involved? I couldn't run fast enough towards the microphone.
I've come to help. I'm the Doctor. Impossible.
The Doctor was joined on his travels by companion Rose Tyler, played by Billie Piper, who at that point was mostly famous for her music career rather than acting.
I've been missing you, I should be kissing you, wanted you to be that's you for me.
She told Radio 2 how much of an impact the show had had on her.
I've never really read scripts that make me cry. And I don't know whether that's because I care about my character and about the Doctor so much, or whether it's just because it's beautifully written, probably a combination.
But whilst the response to the show was better than anyone could have dreamt of, there was already a secret cloud hanging over production. Christopher Eccleston had decided that the series would be his last. He explained why when he joined Simon Mayo and I on Drive Time.
I think the reason I've had a good career in television is because I've always worked for writers that I admire. I do trust my ability to judge a good script. I do trust that. And Jimmy McGovern, Pete Bowker, Russell T Davies...
Not bad, is it?
Peter Flannery, our friends in the North, and William Shakespeare.
Are you able to appreciate your legacy of doing the Doctor Who thing now?
Yes. I mean, well, what's interesting about Doctor Who is the 5-year-olds and the 10-year-olds are all in, you know, they're all young people now. And so I have conversations with 25-year-olds and 18-year-olds going, oh, you were so important to me when I was a kid. And you're not aware of that at the time. You're not aware that 50 years, 20 years down the line, they're still going to be talking to you about it. And that is very, very moving, very touching.
The perception always was that you just wouldn't talk about it, that you wanted nothing to do with it anymore, I think.
I made an agreement that I would say nothing about my departure. And I honoured that because I was looking after the production. And then the BBC issued a statement. They put a quote from me that they had written saying why I'd left, because I was tired, which any producer reading that, well, we won't give Chris Eccleston a job because he gets tired. So I threatened legal action and I got an apology printed in all the newspapers. The BBC had to make a statement apologising for attributing quotes to me.
Did you always you just signed up for the one series?
That's a long story, Joe.
Oh, okay, fine. You know me. Once a Whovian, always a Whovian. And I'm pretty much still like that to this day. But back to the TARDIS. Just 13 episodes into its new era, it was time for regeneration.
Rose, now listen. This is important. If this message is activated, then it can only mean one thing. We must be in danger, and I mean fatal. I'm dead or about to die any second with no chance of escape.
No!
And that's okay. Hope it's a good death. But I promise to look after you, and that's what I'm doing. The TARDIS is taking you home.
I won't let you.
And I bet you're fussing and moaning now. Typical. But hold on and just listen a bit more. The TARDIS can never return for me. Emergency Program 1 means I'm facing an enemy that should never get their hands on this machine. So this is what you should do. Let the TARDIS die. Just let this old box gather dust. No one can open it, no one will even notice it. And if you want to remember me, then you can do one thing. That's all. One thing. Have a good life. Do that for me, Rose. Have a fantastic life.
I was a bit upset because we'd been a tag team, you know, and we'd worked really hard and in the face of adversity sometimes, and it'd been, there were times when shooting was a real struggle. It's 9 months of your life, you're living in Wales, which isn't where you're from. You put your whole, real life on hold, and that's really hard work. And so we were tough together. We held each other's hand, not only in the series, but in real life. And so it was quite sad.
Rose Tyler. I was going to take you to so many places. Barcelona.
Doctor!
Stay away!
Doctor, tell me what's going on.
I absorbed all the energy of the time vortex, and no one's meant to do that. It means I'm going to change. And I'm not going to see you again. Not like this. Not with this daft old face. Before I go, I just want to tell you you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
Louise Jameson, who played Tom Baker's companion, Leela.
The whole show has got a lot to be grateful for. It was absolutely on his shoulders. The success of the show was on his shoulders.
Hello. Okay. New teeth. That's weird. So where was I? Oh, that's right. Barcelona.
Yes, Christopher Eccleston successfully piloted the TARDIS through its hazardous return, but for Time Lords, change is always round the corner. So into his shoes stepped David Tennant.
I'd worked with David Tennant on a production of Casanova for BBC and knew that he was a Doctor Who fan, which isn't important. You don't have to be to become the Doctor, but we shared such good stories about Doctor Who. So again, I just kind of made the links in my head automatically, and what a joy, what a joy.
Obviously, they'd filmed the end of the series before we'd finished doing contracts and so on and so forth. So it was months later when I did my bit, which was literally the 3 or 4 lines that you saw at the end of episode 13. Billie wasn't there. I was just looking at a cross of gaffer tape on the wall, which was her eye line. But it was 2 hours in the morning in April with a skeleton crew. And we just went in and did 4 shots, I think. And then they, of course, had to splice it together and finish the episode that was, at that stage, still waiting to be glued together. It was a bit unusual. And I suppose because I knew this was going to be part of my life for the next goodness knows how long, and also because of the part that it is, because of the show that it is, because of the fact that you're kind of being glued into television history on some level, you do feel the sense of occasion.
What was lovely about that is introducing people to the whole joy of the Doctor Who experience, that this lead character can regenerate and the companions can change.
Who exactly are you?
Well, that's the question.
I demand to know who you are. I don't know.
See, that's the thing. I'm a doctor, but beyond that, I just don't know. I literally do not know who I am. It's all untested. Am I funny? Am I sarcastic? Sexy? Right old misery? Life and soul? Right-handed, left-handed, a gambler, a fighter, a coward, a traitor, a liar, a nervous wreck. I mean, judging by the evidence, I've certainly got a gob.
One thing David certainly was a Doctor Who obsessive. Ever since he saw John Pertwee regenerate into Tom Baker at the age of just 3, he had well and truly caught the bug. Of course, back then he was just plain old David MacDonald from Paisley, but it seemed like his timeline had been set. From his earliest days, he wanted to be an actor, as he told me in 2013.
I always knew what I was going to do, yeah. I'm sure only because I'd never really thought through, never really understood the kind of consequences of what it really should be like. People go, oh, most actors don't work most of the time. You go, yeah, fine, whatever. You don't really look the reality of that in the face.
And did you have any long periods when you weren't working, when it was?
No, I've been really lucky, which is good, I think, because I worry if I hadn't been, I'd have panicked and given up. I think I've been fortunate that the jobs have joined up enough to keep me hanging in there.
Of course, if you want to be a proper actor, you have to join the union. And if there's already someone with your name, you have to, regenerate. So, armed with a copy of Smash Hits magazine, David chose his new surname, Tennant, inspired by Neil Tennant of the Pet Shop Boys. He earned his big breakthrough in the 1994 BBC Scotland series Taking Over the Asylum.
Have some faith, Eddie. This is our moment.
But by the time David had his equity card, the axe had long ago fallen on Doctor Who. It seemed his dream of inhabiting the TARDIS would never take place, though he did manage to appear in some of those spin-off Big Finish audio dramas.
Yes. No one can shout, no one can shout, no one can shout when the doctor's about. No one can shout, no one can shout, no... Stop shouting, the doctor won't like you if you shout.
David Tennant as Daft Jamie, who appeared alongside Sixth Doctor Colin Baker in Medicinal Purposes. So what did it feel like to finally get a shot of playing the Doctor?
Christopher Eccleston said, it's really difficult watching a programme in your youth and then becoming the person that you watched on the telly. You know, there's something that's quite hard to reconcile that. You have a big responsibility and a big duty, really, don't you?
You do, and you kind of can't really think about it. When you have little objective moments when you realise that you're part of the same thing,
yes,
it all becomes a bit overwhelming.
5 months after his new teeth emerged in the console room, David Tennant returned to the TARDIS to establish another tentpole of the New Who era, the Christmas special.
This crisis is unique, and I'm afraid to say it might get much worse. Doctor, if you're out there, we need you. Help us. Please, Doctor.
Viewed by just under 10 million people, any lingering doubt over the show's future was washed away. Doctor Who was officially cool again, the shops filled with action figures and magazines, while webisodes and fan art became commonplace online. But what was the secret to its success?
It allows people into this world of extraordinary imagination through something very identifiable. You know, the Doctor is this extraordinary, all-conquering hero who gets it wrong and kind of as a machine that doesn't quite work. I mean, it's the most extraordinary machine any of us could ever dream of, but it also doesn't quite work, like our cars don't quite work, or like we can't quite make the video player do what we want it to. And I think there's something in that about the access to the extraordinary. I think that's why it enchanted me as a kid. And also the fact that we love monsters and we love great storytelling at the bottom line.
And the storytelling reached a dramatic high point as Series 2 came to a close.
My name is Rose Tyler, and this is a story of Torchwood. The last story I'll ever tell. This is a story of how I died.
I think very central to the show last year and this year is the relationship between the Doctor and Rose. It's not a sexual relationship, it absolutely isn't.
Am I ever going to see you again?
But it is a love story of types.
You can't.
What are you going to do?
Oh, I've got a TARDIS. Same old life, last of the Time Lords.
On your own. I love you.
It was very sad, actually, because Billie and I had got on very well, and it was a beautifully written scene, and we knew that we were kind of, although we weren't saying goodbye forever or anything, but in terms of the show, we were saying goodbye forever, and it was genuinely very sad, and we all got quite upset, actually.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's very traumatic to watch.
It
really was very sad.
Well, that was what we were aiming for.
But sometimes I know that you cried as well
at
the end of saying that.
Yeah.
But as we know, once you leave the show, it continues without you. As Rose exited, in came Catherine Tate as Donna Noble, then Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. I asked Billie how that felt.
I found it really hard when I left and Freema joined, and just really jealous and envious, and felt like I'd made the biggest mistake of my life and that I'd never work professionally again and that it was all over.
Did you watch the programme when you left with Freema in there? And did you kind of look behind between your fingers?
I didn't. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it at first. Mum was watching it like a hawk. There's a hawk eye on the. She watched every one, and she'd fill me in. Yeah.
So why did you decide to stop doing Doctor Who?
Well, just because I wanted to try a few other things, and it's a massive commitment. And after 2 years, I felt like I couldn't really do it again. It's 9 months in Cardiff. You get home, you learn your lines because there are so many, and they're always quite, there are words you've never said in your life. Much harder for the Doctor than for me. And it's you have to literally capitulate and hand your entire existence over to it. And also it kind of catapults you into that massive, famous kind of arena, and suddenly every conversation is dominated by Doctor Who, and sometimes it gets a bit frustrating.
It wasn't just Billie's conversation that was being dominated by Doctor Who, so was the TV schedule. The Whoniverse was expanding at a rate of knots, with spin-offs like Torchwood, Totally Doctor Who, and The Sarah Jane Adventures, which re-established a couple of old fan favourites into the Doctor's timeline.
Doctor, oh my God, it's you, isn't it? You've regenerated.
Yeah, half a dozen times since we last met.
You look incredible.
So do you.
Whilst the initial return of the Doctor had avoided including too many callbacks to the previous incarnations, as the show grew in popularity, it started to welcome back more familiar faces into the fold.
You are being deleted.
Now then, Doctor! Oh, new voice. Hello. 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 Anyway, why don't we stop and have a nice little chat while I tell you all my plans and you can work out a way to stop me? I don't think.
Hold on, I know that voice.
I'm asking you really properly. Just stop. Just think. Use my name. Master.
The momentum the series was gaining seemed unstoppable. And when the Doctor notched up his third Christmas special, 2007's Voyage of the Damned, it featured one very special guest star, Kylie, as Astrid Peth.
What happened? How come the shields were down?
I don't think it was an accident.
How many dead?
We're alive. Just focus on that. I will get you out of here, Astrid, I promise. Look at me.
The episode was watched by over 13 million viewers, the highest figure for Doctor Who since the 1979 serial City of Death. In the episode, the Doctor ended up kissing Kylie. In fact, the series became a bit of a love-in, with the usually chaste Time Lord snogging Astrid, Martha, and Lady Christina de Souza. It seemed like everyone was in love with the Doctor. Why wouldn't you be? So much so that David Tennant was nominated for Best Drama Performance at the British National Television Awards.
The National Television Award goes to David Tennant,
where he dropped this bombshell.
Thank you to everyone. I'm very excited because in January I go back to Cardiff to make 4 new specials, which will see Doctor Who all the way through. Oh yes. Oh, cheer it up. Which will see Doctor Who all the way through 2009. But when Doctor Who returns in 2010, it won't be with me. Now, don't make me cry. It's the 2009 shows will be my last playing the Doctor. I love this part, and I love this show so much. And if I don't take a deep breath and move on now, I never will, and you'll be wheeling me out of the TARDIS in my bath chair.
I can do so much more! So much more!
But this is what I get. My reward.
But it's not fair!
I don't want to go.
David Tennant's regeneration was one of the most heart-wrenching in Who history. He didn't want to go. But with David went the whole creative team, who themselves regenerated. New showrunner Stephen Moffat was on record as saying the Doctor should be played by someone middle-aged and odd-looking.
Legs! I've still got legs! Good. Arms, hands, ooh, fingers, lots of fingers, ears, yes, eyes too, nose, and I've had worse, chin, blimey, hair. I'm a girl! No! I'm not a girl. No. I'm still not Ginger. And something else. Something important. I'm crashing!
So he plumped for the youngest actor ever to play the role at just 26 years old, who just happened to be rather attractive too. Into the Doctor's shoes stepped Matt Smith. Of course, Stephen Moffat was an experienced head, the man behind the sitcom Coupling, comic relief Doctor Who spoof The Curse of Fatal Death, and the cult kids TV show Press Gang. He'd also written Doctor Who episodes in his bedroom as a child.
I wrote a whole 4-part one. I must have been 10 or something. It was rubbish. I remember that the denouement, I wrote it with Billy McColgan as a friend of mine at school. It was about bird creatures, and I couldn't really work out a way to end it. So we had, there was a control room that had a doomsday button in it, and it said in the control room, doomsday button, do not touch. And if you press this button, it blew up the planet.
To be fair, he got better. Stephen Moffat had written for Doctor Who books during the years the show was off air, and already had 6 episodes of the new era of Doctor Who under his belt, including the episode Blink, which starred future Oscar nominee Carey Mulligan and went on to earn him a BAFTA.
They have taken the blue box, haven't they? The angels have the phone box.
What am I supposed to do?
The angels are coming for you, but listen, your life could depend on this. Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink. Good luck.
In fact, Stephen barely had time to blink himself. He spent so much time commuting to Cardiff alongside Mark Gatiss to work on Doctor Who that the pair killed the time by discussing an idea about a reboot of one of Arthur Conan Doyle's famous creations. I'm not sure if anything happened to that, really.
I looked you up on the internet last night.
Anything interesting?
Anyway, back to the TARDIS. As a lifelong Doctor Who obsessive, it's fair to say Stephen was a little bit nervous about the new job.
I mean, I was just terrified. I was absolutely terrified of everything we were doing and wondering, are people going to go for this?
But he didn't have to wait too long for validation.
No. I love yogurt. Yogurt's my favourite. Give me yogurt.
Got some carrots.
Carrots? Are you insane? No, wait. Hang on. I know what I need. I need fish fingers and custard.
I'm not saying it's the best thing ever in Doctor Who, but I think the moment when I saw the rushes for the scene where Matt Smith eats fish fingers and custard with little Amelia was the first time I knew it was going to work, or thought it might work.
Funny.
Am I? Good. Funny's good. What's your name?
Amelia Pond.
Oh, that's a brilliant name. Amelia Pond. Like a name in a fairy tale.
I was part of the barren age when it wasn't on television. You know, I mean, I read the script of the 11th Hour, which was our first episode, and just went, whoa, this show's amazing. This character's amazing. And because I'd really had that little contact with it.
The 11th Doctor was joined in the TARDIS by Amy Pond, played by Karen Gillan, who would end up in Hollywood with Guardians of the Galaxy, and by Rory, played by Arthur Darvill, who would go on to star in Broadchurch, which itself would have quite the impact on Doctor Who.
So, you're not dead?
And a Happy New Year.
River told us.
Well, of course she did.
She's a good girl. Oh, Mr. Pond! Guess who's coming for dinner?
Whoa! You're not dead then?
We've done that.
Oh, okay.
We're about to have Christmas dinner. Joining us?
If it's no trouble.
There's a place set for you.
But you didn't know I was coming. Why would you set me a place?
Oh, because we always do.
The Doctor was also joined by his wife, Riversong, who it turns out, spoiler alert, is also Amy and Rory's child. OK, so it is a bit complicated. And that is one of the sticks that was sometimes used to beat the show, as Matt Smith told us.
Well, not children that I met. Weirdly, some adults said it. And I mean, people will take from any series what they want. And quite interestingly, in America, they embrace the complexities because it has that sort of science fiction culture where they like all those hidden meanings and messages.
So it became the thing to say, but the truth is the assumption that the audience is intelligent has paid off hugely for us, not just on Doctor Who, but also on Sherlock. I'm doing 2 shows that assume the audience is really, really smart, and they're both doing incredibly well. Yeah. Maybe the news is that people are clever.
Quite. And those clever fans loved it, both at home and overseas. The geek chic of Matt's Doctor was also having an impact on the high street, where his Patrick Troughton-inspired neckwear led to an increase in bow tie sales of 94% in just a month, according to Top Man.
Yeah, it's cool. Bow ties are cool. This from the man in the bow tie. Bow ties are cool. Bow ties are cool.
Here's one. Bow tie. Get rid.
Bow ties are cool.
And so was the Doctor. Up sprang a BBC prom and the Doctor Who experience. Matt Smith even popped up in character at Glastonbury alongside Orbital, who were playing the Doctor Who theme, and the crowd went wild.
So, Glastonbury, this is the last song of the evening, people. Everyone lost. Let's make this one count.
In came superstar writers, including Neil Gaiman and Richard Curtis. And there was change at the heart of the TARDIS, with Amy and Rory moving on to pastures new. As we now know, as one door closes, another opens. In stepped Jenna Coleman, who may or may not have been a Dalek when we first met her.
Rescue me, Chimboy, and show me the stars.
Does it look real to you?
Does what look real?
Where you are right now. Does it seem real?
It is real.
It's a dream, Oswin. You dreamed it for yourself because the truth was too terrible.
Where am I?
Where am I? Where am I?
Because you are a Dalek.
I am not a
Dalek! I am not a Dalek!
I'm human.
You were human when you crashed here. It was you. You climbed out of the pod. That was your ladder.
To borrow a question from an earlier Stephen Moffat episode.
How? How is this possible? Tell me.
Not so fast.
Yeah, people don't understand time. It's not what you think it is.
Then what is it?
Complicated.
Tell me.
Very complicated.
I'm clever and I'm listening, and don't patronise me because people have died and I'm not happy. Tell me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
And time, wibbly-wobbly or otherwise, was ticking. In June 2013, 5 months before the show's 50th anniversary, it was announced that Matt Smith would be leaving the role.
The decision to leave Doctor Who is always a difficult one, but I just thought it was right for me at the right time creatively for me to go, and importantly the right time for the show, because it gets a new lick of paint and a new energy, and you know, it reinvigorates it all again, and it reignites it all again, and people get to engage with it in a whole new way again.
Just 2 months later, in a televised special hosted by our own Zoe Ball, the identity of the Doctor was revealed.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. I know you're beside yourself with excitement, the tension is unbearable, and the wait has been excruciating. He may be 1,000 years old, but he's about to get a whole new lease of life. Here we go. The big reveal, the crunch moment we've all been waiting for. Joining us now, live in the studio, exclusively on the BBC, please welcome the 12th Doctor, a hero for a whole new generation. It's Peter Capaldi!
But Matt Smith wasn't going anywhere quite yet. First, there was the small matter of the anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor, which saw him reunited with old acquaintances and introduced a new Doctor into the mix.
Doctor, what's going on?
It's, timey-wimey thing.
Timey what? Timey-wimey?
I've no idea where he picks that stuff up.
And they didn't stop with just John Hurt and David Tennant. Every iteration was thrown into the battle.
Calling the War Council of Gallifrey. This is the Doctor.
You might say I've been doing this all my lives.
Good luck. Stand by. Ready. Commencing calculations. Turn me there.
Across the boundaries that divide one universe from another.
Got to lock onto his coordinates. And for my next trick, I didn't know when I was well off. All 12 of them. No, sir. Ah! All 13.
The Day of the Doctor was a 3D extravaganza, which was simulcast to televisions and cinemas in 94 countries across the globe, earning the show a Guinness World Record for the largest ever simulcast of a TV drama. It also gave us our first glimpse of the next Doctor, lifelong Whovian Peter Capaldi.
And you had the Doctor Who annual, I guess, when you were growing up. I bet you did.
And my mother used to buy me it.
Did she? Oh.
And she continued to buy me it throughout my entire life.
Stephen Moffat explains the joy of working with Peter.
When it came time when Matt Smith was leaving, It's just a fact I'd always wanted to work with Peter Capaldi. I just really had. Honestly, I had wanted to work with Peter. And I knew that he was a Doctor Who fan. And I just thought, well, I could put those facts together, couldn't I? I could just make him Doctor Who, then I get to work with him. He's absolutely joyous to work with Peter, incredibly focused and serious and passionate about his work. He needs to know everything about a story. You know, he's so intense about, you know, but when do I decide that the monster's over there? When do I know that? Even if he's not going to show it on screen, quite often he wants to know what the Doctor's holding back. He can do a thing, I think, which is fascinating about Peter, is he can just think at the lens. Just doesn't move his face, doesn't seem to do anything. He just thinks at the lens and you get it. You get what Scottish torment is behind those eyebrows. You can feel it.
The 12th Doctor soon made the acquaintance of one of his oldest foes, the Master, or, in their present regeneration, Missy.
Oh, go on, crack a smile. I want to see if your eyebrows drop off.
All of this. All of it just to give me an army.
Well, I don't need one, do I?
Armies are for people who think they're right. Nobody thinks they're righter than you.
Give a good man firepower, and he'll never run out of people to kill.
I don't want an army.
Well, that's the trouble. Yes, you do. You've always wanted one. All those people suffering in the Dalek camps, now you can save them. All those bad guys winning all the wars, go and get the good guys back.
Nobody can have that power.
You will, because you don't have a choice. There's only one way you can stop these clouds from opening up and killing all your little pets down here. Conquer the universe, Mr. President. Show a bad girl how it's done.
He was joined in the TARDIS by Matt Lucas as Nardole and Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, who became the first openly gay companion in the show's history.
What's nice about her and about the character that she plays is that she's totally new to the world of Doctor Who. Her character doesn't have any experience of Daleks or spaceships or anything like that.
Could somebody tell me what the hell is going on?
You did it. You did it.
God, I am going to beat the shit.
No, come on. We've got the band back together again. Now, lovely as it is to have you on board, literally and metaphorically, we are going to need some help.
So, who are we going to get?
The only person I know almost as smart as me.
Oh, I see. Blimey. Has it really come to that?
On a set visit, I asked Pearl how Doctor Who had changed her life.
I was doing Curious Incident, then I got this, and then people started showing up at stage door to ask my autograph and take photos and stuff like that, which was really exciting. And then obviously that kind of has ramped up a gear since the broadcast. I was walking around Cardiff yesterday and I'd sort of been able to do that while we were shooting the series, you know, completely anonymous, you know, no makeup, hair looking like whatever. And yesterday I was stopped loads of times. People were just being like, oh my God, you're in Doctor Who, hi, I really like you. Which is really nice. I mean, it's amazing. It's been such a positive response. I feel very lucky.
I felt pretty lucky myself when Peter Capaldi agreed to join me live on my Radio 2 show to talk about his next series. Obviously, I was very cool. God, what surprised you about doing Doctor Who? What have been the things that really have taken you by surprise?
How exhausting it is.
I bet. Physically, you've got to be pretty fit, right?
It's not surprising. It's just what you think it is. It's rather magical and rather wonderful, and it's full of optimism and hope and scary things.
We already knew that Stephen Moffat was moving on, but it's fair to say that I was completely unprepared for what came out of Peter's mouth about an hour into our chat.
I suppose the big thing about it, for me, is that it'll be my last. So that's...
It'll be your last?
Yes.
You bow out after this series?
I will, yes.
Oh, really?
This will be the end for me.
Wow, how do you feel about that?
I feel sad. I love Doctor Who. It's a fantastic programme to work on, and it's been a huge pleasure to work with a family. Mm. Sometimes I walk into a room and people gasp, children gasp. Mm. And it's not because of me, I know that. It's because Doctor Who just walked in. That's an incredibly wonderful place to be on the other side of that. And also, people probably don't know, but the kindness that the BBC has shown to So many people, not just me.
It's going to be an emotional Christmas day. Good grief, there are going to be hearts broken all over the place.
Oh,
That's
yes.
going to be tough.
Yes, but what fun. That's the great thing about Doctor Who. It renews, it comes back. There'll be a new Doctor and a new showrunner and a new version of the show.
And he was right. In came Chris Chibnall, the man behind the phenomenally successful Broadchurch. I spoke to Chris at Doctor Who at 60, a musical celebration, which you can hear now on BBC Sounds. Now, when you were first approached, Chris, about running Doctor Who, how long approximately did it take you to say yes?
Well, there's sort of two hairs running at the same time there, one of which is, yes, absolutely, and the other one which goes, oh my goodness me, the workload, absolutely not. And so it was a bit of, it was both really, because I'd seen Russell and Stephen doing the job, I'd written episodes, I knew what it meant, so I knew the workload, but then also I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was 4, so it's a job that it's both irresistible and you take a deep breath and then you surrender to the joy.
And he was joined by one of Broadchurch's stars, Jodie Whittaker. Yes, 54 years after Verity Lambert and her team brought the Doctor into our lives, finally a woman at the controls of the TARDIS.
Should buy us a few seconds?
I knew what we were going to do was going to attract more scrutiny with the first female Doctor, but that's the fun of it. You go in with knowing you have to put your suit of armour on and pull your helmet down and do the thing you want to do creatively.
Empty pockets. Oh, I hate empty pockets. Hey! Hold on there, please, madam. I need you to do as I say. This could be a potential crime. Why are you calling me madam? Because you're a woman. Am I? Does it suit me? What? Oh, yeah. I remember. Sorry, half an hour ago I was a white-haired Scotsman.
Jodie's first series was praised for 2 stories that harked back to the origins of the show, with her Doctor witnessing defining moments in history in Demons of the Punjab and Rosa.
This is where the Artron signals converge.
At the bus company, all roads lead to Rosa Parks.
Yeah, bit of a worry.
Stand up now.
I don't think I should have to.
Are you going to stand up?
No.
If you don't stand, I'm going to have you arrested.
You may do that.
I feel really proud and I feel quite emotional about the whole thing because I feel finally we could talk about it. Finally, we've shared our work. There's a lot of interest beforehand to get photos of this or, leaks of that.
And Jodie explained what it was like joining a show with such history.
There's our new family, but then also there's, the 55 years of history that you are forever in, and that's really unique.
Have you any idea what's going on in outer space in 1916 right now?
Strangely enough, no. Oh, also, new freelancers. Don't be cross.
Are you ready for this?
No.
Me neither.
I believe you 3 know each other of old.
Oh, wow. You said a woman. You never said young. Tegan. Ace? That is a good look on you, Professor. What are you doing here?
I brought them in.
But what's it like to be brought back in 33 years after the show you were starring in was cancelled?
When I got the call from my agent to say that there'd been an availability check, I put the phone down and I cried. Because it was like something that I didn't even realise that I wanted. And I knew that it would be so thrilling for the fans who've asked again and again and again and again, will Ace be coming back?
Ace returned as part of a support group for former companions of the Doctor, and as she re-entered the Whoniverse, Jodie Whittaker exited. She and showrunner Chris Chibnall stuck to their plan of 3 series and out.
That's gone so quickly. It feels like this very precious gift. The wonderful thing about the job is you do know that they're big shoes, but then they so quickly become your own and you are given that opportunity to make it yours.
I want to know what happens next. Right then. Doctor whoever I'm about to be. Tag. You're it.
But in a Doctor Who first, Jodie didn't regenerate into the next Doctor, but into an old Doctor, David Tennant, who for 3 very special 60th anniversary episodes will be joined by a familiar face, former companion Donna Noble, a.k.a. comedian Catherine Tate.
I know these teeth. What? What?
What indeed? Alongside David and Catherine came Russell T Davies, who has returned to the show to lead it into its next decade. And as we hang up the tinsel and reach for the mince pies, he'll be joined by a new doctor. He told the BBC how it happened.
It was our last audition. It was our very last one. We thought we had someone, and then in he came and stole it. And genuinely, I've watched Sex Education, loved his work, didn't quite know what we were going to get until I was in the room. And meeting you since, Ncuti, it's just going to be a joy. I'm properly thrilled. It's going to be a blazing future.
And it wasn't just Russell who was excited.
Paul McGann sent me a message saying, "Oh, the new doctor is Scottish." So I wrote back, "Scotland 4, Liverpool 2. I'm looking forward to meeting him."
Another person who was apparently delighted with the casting of Ncuti Gatwa was his Barbie co-star, Ryan Gosling, leading to speculation, naturally, that he might make an appearance in the TARDIS himself.
If a star ever says they would love to be in Doctor Who, the first thing we do on the Monday morning is run to the phones. And the second thing that happens is that you meet the agent, and it dies on the spot, because they literally just go, "Never heard of you," and that's £2 million. So these plans never get very far, but we try. Sometimes it works, like when we got Kylie. Kylie absolutely came aboard and loved it. So it can work sometimes. I think Ryan Gosling might be beyond our stratosphere somehow.
So we might not be getting Ryan Gosling, but we are getting Bonnie Langford.
Working with Ncuti, the new doctor, is extremely exciting. You know when somebody walks in a room and they just have an energy and an aura about them? It's just so lovely to feel that he's taking the show into the future, literally. Ncuti is taking it forward into a brand new era, but it has these wonderful roots of the importance that this show has had to so many people. And I think that's really what's special about this programme. And Ncuti is just an absolute ball of energy and fun, and he also has a vulnerability about him, which is fantastic. I love him to bits.
So what can we expect in the future from the next Doctor? Who better to ask than the man himself?
To battle aliens. I can't wait to do that. The job is going to be, and is already, really creatively fulfilling, and so I'm just excited to take on the role. This role is an institution, and it's so iconic, and it means a lot to so many people, including myself, and so it makes everyone feel seen as well. It's something that everyone can enjoy, so I feel very grateful to have had the baton handed over, and I'm going to try to do my best.
Who could ask for anything more? Who Are We was presented by me, Jo Whiley. It was written and produced by Paul Sheehan. Sound was by Giles Aspen. And it was a BBC audio production for BBC Radio 2.
This is Radio 2.
On BBC Sounds.
And on your smart speaker.
Play BBC